If anyone had told Michael that a single decision could change a person's entire life, he would have laughed. He was the kind of young man who believed that danger always announced itself. That evil always came with warning signs. That tragedy always made noise before arriving. But on that cold, lonely night, exactly 1:07 a.m., he learned something different. The worst things in life do not shout. They wait. They watch. They follow. And when they finally strike, they take everything. That night, the streets were too quiet. So quiet that even the wind refused to blow. The moon hid behind the clouds as if scared of what it would witness. Dogs that usually barked at shadows suddenly went silent. And somewhere in the distance, a baby cried. Not the cry of hunger. Not the cry of pain. But the cry of something lost. Something calling for a soul to join it. Michael didn't know all this. He didn't know that in his town, there was a secret the elders refused to speak about. He didn't know that after 1 a.m., the road to his friend's house was no longer just a road. It became something else. A path between the world he knew and a world he was never meant to see. That night, Michael stepped out of his house thinking he was doing something good. But what he met in the darkness was not human. Was not normal. Was not from this world. And the saddest part? He returned home before dawn, but the Michael who walked back was not the same Michael who walked out. Something followed him. Something that didn't blink. Something that had been waiting for years. Something that found a new home inside his shadow. This is not just a story. This is a warning. A warning to anyone who thinks the night is harmless. A warning to anyone who believes they can cheat time. A warning to anyone brave or foolish enough to walk alone at 1 a.m. Because the night may open for you. But it may not close back. And sometimes, the person who returns home is not the same person who left. Welcome to Nightfall Tales by Wara, where every story opens a door you never knew existed. Sit tight, because tonight's tale will hold your heart, your breath, and your shadow. The rain had just stopped when Michael woke up to the sound of his phone vibrating beside his pillow. The digital clock on the wall glowed 1:02 a.m. He frowned. Who would be calling him at that kind of hour? He picked the phone. It was David, his childhood friend, the one person he could never ignore. Michael, please, help me. David's voice was shaky, weak, almost fading. Michael sat up immediately. What happened? Are you okay? I can't breathe well. My chest, it's burning, please come. Please. Where is your inhaler? Michael asked. It finished, David whispered, crying now. And my mum traveled. I'm alone. Michael closed his eyes. He knew David's asthma was serious. He knew every second mattered. Okay. Don't worry. I'm coming now. I'll bring the medicine. But immediately he said that, something cold ran through his body. He looked at the clock again. 1:03 a.m. His mother always told him, never step out after 1 a.m., not in this town. That is the hour the spirits walk. He never believed her. He thought it was just an old woman's story. But tonight, those words repeated in his head like a warning. Still, he couldn't abandon David. Michael quickly put on his hoodie, grabbed the small torchlight by the door, and opened the gate gently so it wouldn't make noise. The night greeted him with something strange. A deep, heavy silence. No wind. No owls. No rustling leaves. Just silence, thick like smoke. He stepped outside. The street lights flickered, then went off completely. His torchlight dimmed for a second, as if something sucked its power. Michael's heart beat faster, but he forced himself forward. As he walked down the lonely street, he kept looking back even though he saw no one. But he felt something. A presence. A soft sound echoed behind him. Like footsteps. But when he shone his torchlight, nothing appeared. He shook his head. It's just fear, he whispered to himself. But deep down, he knew it wasn't fear. Something was following him. When he reached the long, narrow bridge that led to David's house, he paused. At the end of the bridge, he saw something that made his legs freeze. A small child, sitting alone in the middle of the road, crying. The child wore a white gown and had messy, wet hair that covered the face. Michael's voice broke. "Hey, are you okay? What are you doing out here?" The child didn't answer. Just cried harder. Michael took a step closer. "Where is your?" The child lifted its face. There was no face. Just smooth skin, like clay. Michael stumbled back in shock. The child stood up slowly. Pointed a finger at him. And whispered. "Don't continue your journey." Michael dropped the torchlight. His body shook. But he remembered David. David who couldn't breathe. David who could die. So he forced himself to run past the faceless child. As he ran, he heard the child whisper behind him. "If you go, you will not return alone." Michael didn't stop. He didn't turn back. But he felt something cold brush his back, like tiny fingers. He didn't know he had just crossed the line between the living and something else. Michael finally reached the main road leading to David's house. His hands were shaking but he kept moving. The street was empty. But halfway through, he saw another figure. A man. Tall. Thin. Standing perfectly still in the center of the road, facing away from him. Michael slowed down. "Sir, excuse me, please. I need to pass." No answer. The man didn't move. Michael swallowed hard and stepped closer. "Sir, can you hear me?" Still no movement. So Michael walked slowly around him, trying not to make noise. But as he took the last step to pass the man suddenly turned. Not with a normal neck turn. But with a slow, cracking twist, like breaking bones. The man's face was pale, eyes empty, lips shaking like someone freezing. "You shouldn't be here," the man whispered. Michael froze. The man grabbed his arm. His fingers were ice cold. "They don't like visitors," the man said with trembling lips. Who? Who doesn't like visitors?" Michael asked, scared. The man leaned closer, eyes wide. "Those who walk at this hour, they follow footsteps. They follow souls." Michael pulled his arm free and ran. He didn't dare look back. But he heard the man shouting behind him. "Don't let it touch your shadow." Michael didn't know what it was. But he felt it. Something running behind him, close to his feet, like a shadow without a body. He reached David's gate and banged on it hard. David opened, coughing and sweating. "Thank God," he whispered. "I thought I wouldn't make it." Michael hugged him tightly. He didn't realize he brought something with him. Inside David's room, the air felt heavy. Too heavy for a small house. Michael handed him the inhaler. David used it, breathing deeply. After a few minutes, he finally calmed down. "Thank you," David said weakly. "If not for you." Michael forced a smile, but he couldn't hide the fear in his eyes. David noticed. "What happened? You look like you saw a ghost." Michael swallowed hard. I don't know. But something is wrong with this night." Suddenly, the lights flickered in the house. Once. Twice. Then went off completely. The room went dark. David's breath quickened. "Michael? What's happening?" Michael turned on his torchlight. The beam shook in his trembling hand. The door behind them creaked open, even though they had locked it. A cold wind blew into the room even though all windows were closed. Then they heard it. Soft footsteps entering the house. Slow. Dragging. Light, but heavy. David whispered, "Who is in my house?" Michael's voice broke. I think something followed me here. The footsteps moved closer. Then stopped. Silence. Michael felt a cold breath behind his neck. He turned slowly, but saw nothing. David grabbed his hand. Michael, we need to leave. Please. Let's go to my neighbor's house. They opened the door and ran into the street. But something strange happened. Every house light on the street blinked 3 times. Then all went off at once. The whole street turned black. Silent. Dead. Except for one house at the end. A house glowing with dim, yellow light. David whispered, "That house, no one has lived there for 10 years. Michael stepped back. But the light from that house flickered. And a tall, dark shadow moved behind the curtain. Michael felt his knees weaken. Something whispered his name from the darkness. Michael. He grabbed David's hand and ran. They didn't know the road they took to escape was the worst road they could have chosen. A road that didn't exist during the day. A road that only appeared after 1 a.m. A road that once entered. No one ever returned from the same. Michael and David ran as fast as their legs could carry them. The night air felt colder now, too cold for a warm season like this. It pressed against their skin like invisible hands trying to pull them back. They didn't stop until their lungs burned and their legs shook. When they finally slowed down, they looked around. And that was when fear entered their bones. Michael, David whispered, panting. Where are we? Michael turned slowly, shining the torchlight around. He didn't recognize the place. This wasn't a street. This wasn't even a road. It was a narrow, long path with tall trees bending towards each other, their branches forming something like an arch above their heads, like a tunnel made of darkness. Michael had lived in this town all his life. He knew every street. Every corner. Every landmark. But this place. This silent path. He had never seen it before. David, we came from this way, right? David shook his head violently. I've lived here for 20 years. This road doesn't exist. The torchlight flickered again. Michael tapped it, but instead of getting brighter, it dimmed even more. Then he noticed something. Their shadows. They were no longer behind them. They were in front of them. Moving, even though they themselves were standing still. David, Michael whispered. Don't move. But David was already trembling. The shadows stretched forward slowly, like they were being pulled by something unseen. Then Michael saw it. A dark shape at the end of the path, standing under the arch formed by the trees. Tall. Thin. Bent like a crooked branch. Not moving. Not breathing. Just watching them. Michael, David cried softly. Someone is there. Michael held his friend's shoulder. We should go back. But when they turned, the path behind them was gone. Completely gone. Only thick forest stood where they had come from. No footprints. No path. No escape. David covered his mouth with his shaking hands. Are we trapped? Michael couldn't answer. Because the figure at the end of the path was moving now. Slowly. Steadily. Like it knew they had nowhere to run. The torchlight died. Darkness swallowed them. And in the darkness, they heard children laughing. But not the laugh of real children. The laugh of something pretending to be children. Something that wanted them to keep walking deeper. Something that fed on fear. Michael grabbed David's hand. Move. Slowly. Don't run, he whispered. But David couldn't hold it anymore. He screamed. And the whole forest answered. They ran blindly through the darkness. Branches slapped their faces. Thorns tore their clothes. The ground felt uneven, like it was shifting beneath their feet. Michael didn't know how long they ran. All he knew was the sound. The footsteps behind them. Light. Fast. Too fast. Something was chasing them. Something not human. Then, suddenly, a house appeared. A small, wooden house with an old lantern glowing on the porch. In the middle of a forest. No sound. No breeze. Just the house waiting, like it had been expecting them. David stopped, gasping for breath. "We can hide there," he said. Michael hesitated. "David, how can there be a house in the middle of a forest that wasn't here before?" But before he could finish speaking, the door of the house creaked open. By itself. And then, a soft voice came from inside. A woman's voice. Calm. Warm. Almost too warm. "Michael. David. Come in." Michael jumped backward. How does she know our names?" David was shaking uncontrollably. "I don't care. I'm scared, Michael. We need shelter." Michael grabbed his arm. "No. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong." But then the footsteps returned. The same light, fast, chasing footsteps. The thing in the forest wasn't far now. The air behind them froze. The leaves stopped moving. A cold whisper passed behind Michael's ear. "If you don't enter, it will take you." That decided it. They ran into the house and shut the door. Darkness swallowed the outside. Inside the house, a small oil lamp burned faintly. The room was simple: wooden table, 2 chairs, an old cupboard, and a framed picture above the fireplace. But something bothered Michael. There was dust everywhere. Thick, untouched dust. As if no one had lived here for years. Yet the lamp was burning. And the door opened by itself. And a voice called their names. Michael approached the picture on the wall slowly. When he saw it, his blood pressure dropped. It was a family picture. A mother, a father, and 2 little children. But their faces were blurred out. As if someone wiped off the faces from the photo. David walked to the table, touching the lamp. "It's warm," he whispered. "Someone lit it not long ago." Then, suddenly, the door behind them slammed open on its own. The oil lamp went out. The house turned pitch black. Michael reached for David. But he touched nothing. "David," he whispered. No answer. "David, where are you?" Still no answer. Then a faint glow appeared at the back of the room. A mirror. A tall, full mirror he hadn't noticed before. The mirror lit up, not from light, but from something inside it. And in the mirror, Michael didn't see his reflection. He saw David. Standing alone. Crying. And behind David, a tall shadow with long fingers reaching for him. Michael screamed. "David!" Michael threw himself toward the mirror. He didn't think. He didn't breathe. He didn't care about danger. He just wanted his friend back. He grabbed the sides of the mirror and shook it violently. "Let him go!" Inside the mirror, David looked terrified. His palms pressed against the glass as if he was stuck behind it. "Michael, help me," he cried. Something pulled him backwards. Something dark. Something with no face. Michael hit the mirror with his fist. Pain shot through his hand, but he didn't stop. "Leave him alone." The shadow behind David tilted its head slowly, as if curious about Michael. Then, it smiled. Not with a mouth. With its whole body. David screamed as the shadow's long fingers wrapped around his neck. Michael lost control. He backed away, grabbed the wooden chair in the room, and smashed it against the mirror. The glass cracked. A sharp, high-pitched cry echoed from inside the mirror. Not the cry of a human, but the cry of something ancient. Michael struck again. and again. Until the mirror exploded into pieces. He fell backward from the force. Glass scattered all over the room. The whole house began to shake. Walls bending, floor creaking, windows breaking. Michael covered his ears as a loud, booming voice filled the room. "You should not have come here." The house felt like it was breathing. Expanding and shrinking like a living thing. Michael crawled on the floor, searching for David. "David! David, answer me!" Then he heard it. A soft groan. He turned, and there was David, lying on the floor, shaking violently like someone pulled from deep water after drowning. Michael rushed to him and held him. "David! Are you okay? Talk to me." David opened his eyes slowly. But something was wrong. His pupils. They weren't normal. One was normal. The other was pure black. David whispered weakly. "Michael, it touched me." Michael felt the world shift. "What touched you?" David swallowed hard. "The thing that follows people, at 1 a.m. Before Michael could say more, the shaking stopped. The house suddenly became quiet. Too quiet. Then the door creaked open again. But this time, they didn't run outside. Because outside wasn't a forest anymore. It was their street. The same street they ran from. The same street that had vanished. Michael helped David up slowly. "What is happening to us, David?" David leaned on him, breathing slowly. His voice was weak. "I think we didn't escape, Michael." Michael frowned. "What do you mean?" David lifted his trembling hand and pointed at the ground outside the house. Michael looked at the sand. There were 2 sets of footprints. His. And David's. But right beside theirs was a 3rd set. Small. Deep. Claw-shaped. Following their footsteps step by step. Michael's chest tightened. David whispered, voice shaking. "Michael, whatever followed us, didn't stop." Michael turned slowly to look behind him. And in the doorway of the house, a shadow was standing there. Tall. Silent. Watching them. Waiting. The shadow stood in the doorway, tall and still like a tree carved out of pure darkness. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It only watched. Michael's fingers tightened around David's arm. "Don't look at it," Michael whispered. But David couldn't stop staring. Something in the shadow's shape hypnotized him, almost like it was calling only him. David's voice shook. It followed me, Michael." Michael swallowed hard. "Don't say that. Don't give it attention." The wind suddenly blew, even though the night had been silent. The door of the old house creaked wider. The shadow took 1 step forward. Just one. But that single step felt like thunder. David's knees buckled. He dropped to the ground, clutching his chest. "Michael, it's inside me. I feel it." "No." Michael knelt down. "Don't talk like that. You're just scared." But deep inside, Michael knew David wasn't lying. The look in his friend's eyes. That strange black pupil. The trembles. The coldness in his skin. Something had entered David. Michael lifted him to his feet. "We're leaving. Now." They stepped out of the house. Their footsteps quick and shaky. But there was something strange about the street. Every house was dark. Every curtain was drawn. No dog barked. No generator hummed. It felt like the whole neighborhood had stopped breathing. David leaned on Michael as they staggered forward. Then Michael noticed something that made his heart drop. Every house number they passed was blinking. Blinking like an eye. House 14. Blink. House 15. Blink. House 16. Blink. And as each house blinked, David flinched like something was pinching him. "Michael! I don't like this place." "I know. Just hold on." But when they reached the end of the street, they froze. Because the road ahead didn't lead to their homes. It led back to the forest. The same forest they escaped. The same forest that disappeared. Michael looked behind them. The shadow was no longer in the doorway of the old house. It was standing under a streetlight now. Still. Watching. As if letting them know. There is no escape. Not tonight. Before Michael could think of what to do, he heard something. Footsteps. Soft, slow, steady. But these were different. Human. Old. Fragile. An old woman came out from behind one of the houses, the only person awake at that hour. Her wrapper was tied firmly around her chest, and she held a wooden walking stick that tapped gently on the ground. She looked straight at Michael and David. Her eyes. Clouded, pale, as if she had seen too much darkness in her life. She pointed her stick at them. "You boys," she said softly, "should not be outside now." Michael rushed to her. "Ma, please help us. Something is following us." "Something." "I know," she interrupted. Michael froze. David trembled harder. The old woman took a deep breath and shook her head slowly. "You stepped out during the forbidden hour," she whispered. "You walked the road that does not belong to the living." Her words sent chills down Michael's spine. "Please, what is happening?" Michael begged. The woman looked at David. Her lips trembled. "Your friend, something touched him." David covered his face. Michael held him tighter. "Please, do something. Help him." The old woman's voice dropped to a whisper. "I can help, but he must not speak. Not until the night passes." Michael frowned. "Why?" "Because if he speaks," she said, staring at David's trembling lips, "the thing inside him may answer instead." David's jaw clenched. His breath shook. The black pupil in his eye widened for a second, then shrank again. The woman stepped closer. She pointed at Michael. "Hold him. Don't let go. No matter what you see. No matter what you hear." Before they could ask anything else, a deep, rumbling sound filled the street. The shadow under the streetlight began to move. Slowly. Deliberately. The old woman's voice cracked. "It has noticed you. We must go. Now." She turned quickly and began walking toward her house. Michael dragged David along, both of them stumbling as fear weighed their steps. Behind them, the shadow took another step. Then another. Then another. The old woman hissed sharply. "Don't look back. If you look back, it will take you." Michael forced himself to keep his eyes forward. David leaned heavily on him, struggling to breathe. They reached the old woman's compound. She rushed them into her small parlor and slammed the door. She locked it. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then she whispered a prayer under her breath. Finally, she turned to face them. Her voice was heavy. "Boys," she said slowly, "if you ever want to see the morning alive, tonight you must listen to everything I tell you." Inside the old woman's parlor, the air smelled of burnt herbs, palm oil, and old books. Strange symbols were carved on the walls. Bundles of dried leaves hung from the ceiling. David collapsed on a wooden chair, shaking uncontrollably. Michael knelt beside him. "Ma, please tell us what's going on." The woman sat down opposite them, gripping her walking stick tightly. "What you boys saw," she began, "and what followed you, is older than this town. Older than the first people who settled here." She placed her hand over her heart. "We call it the Watcher of the Hour." David's voice broke. I feel it inside me. The woman raised her hand sharply. Don't talk too much, boy. It listens. David nodded, tears filling his eyes. Michael's voice trembled. What does it want? The old woman sighed deeply. Every night, between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., the boundary between the living and the dead becomes thin, too thin. During that hour, the road changes. Shadows walk freely. Voices call your name. The dead borrow the forms of children. The forest opens paths that lead nowhere. And the watcher looks for souls that wander. Michael shivered. So why did it follow us? The woman looked directly at him. Because you saw it. And once the watcher is seen, it must follow the one who saw it. Michael felt his stomach drop. Ma, how do we stop it? How do we save David? She tapped her stick 3 times. You cannot stop the watcher. Only morning can. David gripped Michael's hand. Michael squeezed back. But, the old woman added, there is a ritual. A dangerous one. Michael leaned forward. We will do it. Anything. Just tell us.